Well, here we are at Borders, and why don't we go inside and check out some literature and some different places that we'll find poetry and prose and drama. Okay, now here we are at the front, and here are some examples of things to avoid. The really popular stuff, the bestsellers, and also fiction like Hunters of Dune and the mystery books and stuff like that. You're just not going to find anything, even if it is first person, you're not going to find anything that has a good story for prose. So now, not far from the front, we have new nonfiction and Borders original voices. Now, some of this is fiction, some of it is nonfiction, some really good memoirs, and some new people that no one has ever heard of, such as Water for Elephants, a really good book maybe for prose. Over here in new nonfiction, you've got some memoirs, things like that are going to be first-person narrative and also have some really interesting stories to tell. Here we are in the literature section, and obviously there's going to be a lot of fiction around here, and some good authors, some old standbys that we've used in the past. Chuck Palahniuk has some really different stuff and really different voices and interesting ways to say things. Nick Hornby is an author if you're looking for some good comedy and a good writer as well. Lionel Shriver, we need to talk about Kevin, is a fantastic prose book that we've used in the past. So there's all kinds of things. David Sedaris, he's kind of overdone, but it's always, good comedy and stuff. And so what you'll want to do is, obviously it's a little daunting, and you see all of these books, is to find those authors that you know have good prose and are really strong writers, and find their books that are in first person, and read through a couple of pages. It's pretty easy to find out after the first few chapters whether or not it's going to end up being yielding a good story, and if it's a good voice that one of your students can portray. Now I know that at Barnes & Noble and Davis Kidd they're a little different, but unfortunately here at Borders there is no biography or memoir section. So you should probably do your homework if you're going to go to a place like Borders, and so you know your memoir or biography authors before you come. So here in the literature section we'll find fiction right next to memoir. Now the benefits of finding a memoir are pretty obvious. You can, these are people's stories of their lives, and it's something that they actually went through. And so one reason that you know that memoirs are going to be beneficial is, of course, it's going to be in the first person. It'll be first person narrative. Another reason is it'll have a clear ending, and you will obviously see a change in that person. Otherwise, why do they write a memoir? Haven't read this memoir. Maybe it'll be good for prose. Okay, now we're at the poetry section. The good thing about Borders is they actually have a pretty good poetry section, whereas other bookstores might not. You find things now, first, of course, when you come over here, you're going to see things like Maya Angelou or E. Cummings, and while, of course, those are amazing poets, they're probably a little too popular, and maybe not quite the style you're looking for narrative poetry. So look for people like Jimmy Santiago Baca with Healing Earthquakes, or Julia Alvarez is a fantastic poet. Jim Carroll has written some really good stuff, and most of their poems you'll find are very narrative and have a nice story that you can cut in with other poems with stories as well. Now around here is the anthology section. So around here is, watch out, Jason.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Around here is where we'll find our anthologies. We've got Verses That Hurt is a good anthology, and The Spoken Word Revolution, Russell Simmons' Deaf Poetry Jam. This is where you're going to find some of your slam poetry and spoken word poetry that is really popular now on the circuit. Also see Aloud. The nice thick anthology. It's got hundreds of poets and hundreds of poems in it for you to look through and to cut into pieces. So here is the poetry section. I know, again, it might seem a little daunting to be going through all of these poems, but again, you can tell just by looking through a few of the poems if it's going to work or not, if it's the type of poem that would be good in a poetry program. Now, here we are in the drama section, looking for the ever elusive script for duo or for GI or HI. Unfortunately, drama sections in bookstores are terrible. So I mean, you'll be able to find some things like 10-minute plays, maybe for good duos and things like that. You might find a one-man play or one-woman play in there, but for the most part, there's just not much here. Most of it's classics. You want to stay away from things like Shakespeare. You want to stay away from Beckett or Mamet or anything like that. You might can find Bogosian, I know, has some good one-man shows, but it might be a little too advanced for high school students, or a little too racy. However, if you are looking for dramas, you might go to the internet, look on dramatist.com, but we wanted to save the best for last. If you're looking for killer prose, Jade Lee's Burning Tigress is one of my favorites. Jade Lee is a really great romance author, and if you're looking for that piece of literature that really is going to wow the judge, maybe you should try some Jade. Well, there you are. Now, after you've been looking through all of these books, obviously you don't want to go and buy them all. I mean, hopefully you'll have a basket full of them, and you need to go through them first. So here's some things to look at. We have here, we need to talk about Kevin by Lionel Shriver, which is a prose piece we used a couple of years ago. Now obviously the first thing you want to look for is it in first person narrative? And that's check one. Then you want to see if it is good prose, because just because it has been published, I think we know that not everything in here is good literature. So look at it for that, and then maybe skip ahead, see what the story does. Does it look like it's building? Does it look like characters are changing? Does it look like maybe there's some good interaction with other characters in the story that will afford you to portray different people throughout the piece? These are all good things, and maybe check out the end too, to see how it ends and what happens at the ending and how it wraps up. Because of course, you never know when you're going to start reading a book and realize, oh yeah, it's all about two dogs and a cat. So unless your student is an animorph and can successfully portray a cat or a dog, I would stay away from books like this. There are also some poetry books that are entirely about dogs and cats, and please don't buy those. Don't even look at them, because I think they're ridiculous. Well, we've been here almost all day. I haven't really found anything for the forensics team that we don't already have, but you know, sometimes that's how it goes. So you just put the old book in the basket and let somebody else reshelf it.
Excuse me, sir, what are you doing?
You're
not going to reshelf these.
Well, it's not my job.
I have been doing this all day long.
Well,
no. You need to get out of here. Sir.
Well, no, we're heading out.
I've had enough of this. Get out of here. Yeah, you are going to head out. Now. Okay. You need to never come back. No. This way. I'm hurting you. Sir,
okay,
excuse me.
Hey.
No, you're not.